If you care about growing food that actually tastes better, soil that doesn't dry out overnight, and gardens that improve every single season instead of declining, this conversation matters more than fertilizers ever will. Before we go any further, make sure you subscribe to Evergreen Garden and drop a comment below, because this channel is built for gardeners who want long-term results, not quick fixes. Now let's get straight into it, because humus and compost are often used as the same thing, and that misunderstanding is holding a lot of gardens back. Why compost and humus are not the same thing, even though gardeners lump them together. Compost is a process and a product that is still alive and still changing. Humus is the end result of decomposition after biology has done its work for years. Compost is partially broken down organic matter that still contains recognizable plant material, active microbes, and nutrients in motion. Humus is dark, stable, carbon-rich material that no longer looks like anything that came before it. It does not heat up, it does not break down further in any meaningful way, and it does not release nutrients quickly. Compost feeds plants now. Humus builds soil for decades. How compost functions in real garden soil. Compost is a short to medium-term soil improver. When you add mature compost to garden beds, you are introducing nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, trace minerals, fungi, bacteria, and enzymes that immediately wake up the soil food web. This is why compost produces visible results within weeks. Leaves get greener, growth accelerates, and soil becomes easier to work. In practical terms, compost acts like a slow-release organic fertilizer combined with a biological inoculant. If you spread compost at a thickness of about 2 to 5 centimeters over beds once or twice per season, you are actively feeding crops. For heavy feeders like tomatoes, corn, or brassicas, mixing compost into the top 15 centimeters of soil at a ratio of 1 part compost to 3 parts native soil works extremely well. What humus actually does beneath the surface. Humus is not about feeding plants directly, it is about transforming the soil's physical and chemical structure. Humus binds sand, silt, and clay into stable aggregates, which means better drainage in clay soils and better water retention in sandy soils at the same time. 1 gram of humus can hold several times its weight in water, which is why soils rich in humus stay cool, moist, and resilient during drought. Humus also acts as a nutrient bank, locking minerals in a form that plants can access slowly through microbial exchange. This is why old forest soils remain fertile without fertilizer inputs. In garden terms, humus is what makes soil forgiving. Miss a watering day and the plants survive. Skip fertilizer and yields stay steady. Which one builds soil faster depends on what you mean by build. If your definition of building soil is quick improvement in plant growth, compost wins without question. Compost delivers immediate results and visibly improves soil texture within a single season. However, if your definition of building soil is increasing organic matter content, improving cation exchange capacity, and stabilizing fertility long-term, humus is the real winner. The problem is that humus forms slowly. It takes repeated compost applications, root exudates, microbial activity, and, well, time. Compost is the raw material. Humus is the finished foundation. You cannot shortcut humus creation, but you can accelerate it by feeding soil biology consistently. How compost turns into humus over time in a living garden. When compost is applied to soil and left on the surface or lightly incorporated, soil organisms take over. Earthworms pull organic particles down, fungi weave carbon chains together, bacteria metabolize simple compounds, and stable humic substances begin forming. This transformation happens faster when soil is kept covered, moist, and undisturbed. In gardens where compost is added every season and tillage is minimal, measurable humus accumulation can begin within 2 to 3 years. In contrast, heavily tilled soils burn through organic matter so fast that compost never gets the chance to become humus. So, let's talk about how to use compost and humus strategically, rather than just picking one over the other. The smartest gardeners, they stop treating compost and humus as if they're competing inputs. Compost is your active builder and feeder, while humus is more like your long-term savings account. For new beds, use compost aggressively during the first 2 seasons to really establish fertility and biology. Just apply about 5 to 8 centimeters on top, and then let rainfall and soil organisms do the rest. Once your beds are established, you can reduce the compost volume, but it's important to maintain consistency. 2 to 3 centimeters annually is enough when your soil structure is already improving. Over time, you'll notice the soil darkens, crumb structure gets better, and watering needs actually decrease. That right there is humus forming right under your feet. Now, here's something a lot of folks get wrong. Bagged humus is not the same as true soil humus. Many products out there labeled as humus or humic matter are actually derived from things like lenodite or lignite. These can improve nutrient availability, sure, but they're not the same as biologically formed soil humus. They act more like soil conditioners and nutrient chelators. They've got value, especially if your soil is really depleted, but they don't replace the organic matter that's built up through compost, roots, and microbial life. True humus, well, that comes from the ground up, not from a bag. So what does all this mean for those of us who want gardens that really last? If you're gardening for just 1 season, compost alone will do the job. But if you're in it for 10 or 20 years on the same bit of land, humus is the real goal. Compost is how you get there. Every time you apply compost, you're taking a step towards soil that resists erosion, buffers nutrients, and supports your crops with less effort each year. The gardens that seem to thrive with fewer inputs aren't just lucky, they're humus-rich. If this guide has helped you rethink how you use compost and understand why humus truly matters, go ahead and subscribe to Evergreen Garden for more deep practical soil knowledge that actually works in real gardens. Share this with a fellow gardener who still thinks compost and humus are the same thing, and do drop a comment below about what you've noticed in your own soil over time.